And there we go. A little bit more gas. Yep. A little bit of the brake to transition. And there she goes. This truck is so easy to slide. There's so much torque. Just a little bit of steering input. Mash the gas and you are in a perfect little drift. Since this is a high performance truck, let's start with the facts and the figures. Up front, I have a 3.5 liter twin turbocharged V6 developing 568 horsepower and 672 foot-pounds of torque. That's up from 450 horsepower and 510 torque in the standard Raptor. So you might be wondering, how does Hennessey get there? Well, it's actually a combination of a few things. The first thing is a bigger intercooler along with a modified intake and a tune to the computer, to the truck's computer. That's how you get to the horsepower output. It takes so little to get the Raptor up over 100 horsepower and over 150 in the torque department. And what does that really translate to? That's what we're really here to find out. I'm currently driving in with rear-wheel drive mode, exhaust in off-road, suspension in off-road, and the transmission in manual. And we're on this loose surface, bit of a gravel road, no biggie at all for the regular Raptor and certainly not for the VelociRaptor. But what you can do is this. You take a corner such as this on a loose surface road, throw it in, mash the throttle, and you get a truck that slides all day long, no problem at all. And you can do it at literally any corner. We have another slight bend up front with all of that torque, because torque comes in at 3,500 RPM. So as soon as you put your foot down and you get that boost, the rear just comes around, and it comes around fast. But just like in the regular Raptor, super duper controllable. So I talked about peak torque. Peak torque is 3,500 RPM. You're not getting peak power until 5,000 RPM. But as soon as the turbos spool up and you get that boost of torque, you can really play with the back end. And that's what I think encompasses the whole idea behind this truck. It's really, really fun. And that's not to say the standard Raptor isn't fun. And I think that's one of the things that benefits the VelociRaptor 600 is that it has the Raptor as this really strong base to build upon. So you basically take a really, really solid truck to start with, you give it 670 foot-pounds of torque, and you get a machine that just slides. Frankly, loose surfaces like this are the absolute home of the VelociRaptor 600. Remember, this is more like of a Baja truck rather than an all-out off-roader. And in surfaces like this, it is more than happy to slide along all day, kick up some dirt, it's really fun. And it's also really controllable. One thing that I always feel with like modified vehicles is you see like high horsepower outputs and you might think, well, they might be a bit intimidating. This is really not one of them. You can mash the throttle, slide it, jump it, whatever, and it's perfectly content doing so. Now, we've talked about power, but that doesn't encompass the whole story around the VelociRaptor 600 because there are changes to the suspension as well. There's a leveling kit which gives you a total lift about 3 inches. And you'll see this truck has a really, really nice stance to it that, I mean, the standard Raptor is great, but I think this is dialed up to that just right level. On the wheel front, they're 20 inches. Those are the Hennessey wheels, and you have 35-inch tires. Now, you can have the VelociRaptor 600 on 35s or on 37s, just like the standard Raptor, but this one does have the smaller 35s. So one thing I have noticed is that the leveling kit seems to firm things up a little bit. It still has the standard Fox adjustable shocks, which adjust things like 500 times a second. But in this situation, this feels a little bit stiffer than the regular Raptor, which is like really, really comfortable. Don't get me wrong, this is still a very comfortable truck, but you can tell that it has a little bit more going on. There you go, proper slide. How good is that? And it's so easy. I'm just talking to the camera, just casually sliding around a freaking almost 700 foot-pound of torque truck. It's really, really fun. So we were talking suspension. Yeah, a little bit stiffer than the regular Raptor. I will say that seems to be the case with this one, but it's still perfectly comfortable. You have all the driving modes of this regular Raptor. In fact, in here you really can't tell you're in a VelociRaptor 600. Again, most of the changes are under the hood or in the suspension. Everything is exterior, so you can't really tell from in here. So everything works as OEM. All the drive modes, everything is left pretty much untouched. It doesn't feel like a modified truck until you put your foot down, of course. So, which that brings me neatly into the exterior of the truck, because you're gonna notice there are some upgrades, such as the metal front and rear bumpers with the VelociRaptor script on them. There's also all the sticker package, Hennessey VelociRaptor, letting everybody know you have a modified truck. For me, I think if it were my truck, I would have a bit of a stealthier look. I think, yeah. So good, this thing. I would have a bit of a stealthier package where it doesn't bring that much attention, but obviously this is like a, press vehicle. You gotta, it's for media, so I totally understand why they do it on this truck in particular. So we've talked about what's different, but we actually need to touch on what hasn't changed, because this is a stage 1 VelociRaptor package, which means there's still a lot of standard Raptor here. And starting with the exhaust. The exhaust, I thought it was a modified exhaust when I first heard it. I haven't driven a new Raptor in a while. This thing sounds like a freaking GTR in Baja mode. All out, it just, look. That sounds like very GTR-ish to me, not the kind of sound you'd expect from a truck like this. But it's really, it sounds great, honestly. I think they've got the V6 sound absolutely nailed, and this truck really gets that, perfectly right. So, you know what, actually, let me go back into manual mode. Yep, back into manual mode. We need the manual shifting for the slides, for the skids. So yes, the exhaust is the same. It's that new X-pipe design that Ford unveiled with this version of the Raptor. And also the Fox shocks. The standard shocks are still here, which are frankly one of, if not the best part of the entire truck. The way that they adjust themselves continuously to various surfaces is what allows this truck to be really competent off-road, but really comfortable on the road. And I'm driving it now here off-road, but I've been driving it on-road pretty much the whole week I've had it through LA, and it's proven to be incredibly comfortable. Does it barely fit in the lane? Sure. In some of the tighter city streets, it's a little bit tougher to maneuver, but if you live in a city where there's a lot of space, not a problem at all. Now, when the VelociRaptor is not sliding around loose surfaces, it is incredibly quick in a straight line. You might think that given the fact that you're increasing the power output of a truck that already has 450 horsepower might not feel like a lot. I completely disagree. This feels much, much faster than a stock Raptor. It feels much closer to a TRX, which is still the quickest truck I've ever driven. And this definitely is getting closer to that. Look at that, just a nice little controllable slide. Yeah. When it hooks up, it absolutely blasts in a straight line. 0 to 60s is in the low 4s, and it'll do a 12-second quarter mile, which is still pretty impressive for how big and heavy of a truck this is. The power delivery feels quite similar to a stock Raptor. It hasn't changed all that much. You have a little bit of lag as the turbos spool up, and then you get that big shove of boost at around 3,500 RPM, and then it carries pretty strong to redline. And also you have the same 10-speed automatic transmission, which is really good. It's one of the best in the business. It's really fast, and I didn't really love first iterations of the 10-speed automatic, but the one in the new Raptor and a lot of the newer Fords, it's really, really good. And for this truck, it's more than fast enough for what this truck has to do and what it's sort of designed to do. So up here, I could, floor it, and it just shifts really fast, really smoothly. One thing that really impressed me about the stock Raptor, and I'm really glad that it carries on to this Raptor, is just how comfortable it is around town. And the sound isolation is phenomenal. Now, the exhaust in Baja mode is properly loud, as you've kind of heard today. But if I put it in quiet mode on the highway, you can't hear it at all. So there's a real dual personality to this truck that I think it nails, given its price point. At this point, it's probably a good time we talk about pricing, because there's a lot that goes into this truck, and as you might imagine, it's not cheap. So this truck, as it sits with absolutely everything on it, comes in at around $115,000, including the donor Raptor. So that includes all of the gear that I mentioned, plus the installation. So this is a turnkey, pay for it, and it's fully done. No need to do absolutely anything else. You get exactly what I'm driving right now. Obviously, a lot of these packages, you can pick and choose what you want, which will vary the price because every Hennessey build is custom. But this one, being kind of the show truck, has absolutely everything, which is why it's at the pricier end of the scale. Frankly, I don't get to drive a lot of modified trucks, so getting this one for a week has been an absolute treat. This is my first Hennessey vehicle I've ever driven, and having spent a lot of time with the regular Raptor and the previous generations of the Raptor, I'm absolutely impressed at the fact that Hennessey was able to take a truck that was already good and build upon that to give us even more. So think of it like this is Raptor Plus, but done really well to a standard that is OEM level. So that's about as big of a compliment as I can give this truck. This truck, I can tell you, I cannot stop smiling while driving this thing. You know, you may see a truck like this from afar with all of its big stickers and metal bumpers and think, well, that's a bit obnoxious. But as soon as you get into it, and it's just such a laugh factory. It is such a joy to drive, such a joy to be in. And frankly, it's just like pure fun. That's what it is. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It knows what it is. And I really like that about it. It's very honest in what it does. And it's not pretending to be anything other than a really powerful off-roading truck that is just loud, it's obnoxious, it's look at me, it's absolutely everything. And now it's beeping at me for some reason. So I think that's probably a good point. I'll give you one final slide. I think that's a really good way to end the video. Please make sure to like and subscribe. That really helps us grow. So if there's anything you want to see, any vehicle you'd like me to cover, please make sure to leave it in the comment section below. I read every single comment and I try to respond to as many as I can. And whether it be modified vehicles, new vehicles, if you leave it down there, I will try to get it. So until next time, take care of yourself and I'll see you then.